Hello and welcome everybody. Here we want to be talking about radical self-acceptance, and from my observation with people over the years, there are three major mistakes that people make when it comes to radical self-acceptance. Now, my goal and my heartfelt outcome for this video is for you to understand what those mistakes are, to see where you have very likely done those mistakes, and then to prevent them in the future. So you understand what acceptance really means, so you can then practice that with the foundation of not doing those mistakes and really knowing what acceptance actually is. So you then get to practice real radical self-acceptance, which brings you the results that you want. Because we all are here for some reason, right? We want to feel different about ourselves. This is very likely why you are watching and why you want to practice radical self-acceptance, because maybe you believe, okay, radical self-acceptance will get me to change. So we use it as a vehicle to actually change those things that we are unacceptant of. Or we want to feel different about ourselves, or we want to relieve our sense of depression, or whatever that might be. Here you will find the answer, which will lead to an emotional understanding and an emotional resolution. I've also put together a healing meditation, speaking of emotional resolution, that you can find in the video description below. In this healing meditation, you won't get any understanding what we will be doing here in this video. That's why this is so crucially important. That's why they go together. What this video cannot give you is the emotional resolution, where you close your eyes and you lay down and I guide you through this meditation of self-acceptance, and there's really some emotional resolution, right? This is what this video can't give you. What the meditation can't give you is some understanding of the mistakes and everything around that, and this is what we want to be doing here. So they're equally important. So with this being said, let's start. When we talk about how to practice radical self-acceptance, the first step that I would like to reveal to you now is to understand acceptance, understanding what acceptance really means. And I don't mean to start with any definition, but I want you to have like a clear roadmap and also a good foundation for what that actually means. So let me explain that to you. And then we see how that relates to actually self-acceptance. But we first need to understand acceptance, because what acceptance also is, means acceptance of emotions and situations. And the only thing that self-acceptance actually involves is like how you feel about the situations, like what's happening internally and what's happening towards you externally, right? What are the situations? So self-acceptance is the practice of acceptance. So let me explain that to you very briefly. Here's the first major mistake. Many people believe that acceptance is towards the situation, right? And it means manipulating yourself to feel positive or neutral about something that you actually feel negative about, right? So what acceptance rather is, it is going after the emotions. Many of us believe, okay, the situation, like somebody passed away, or I lost a job, I got fired, this business disappeared, my savings got, like the stock market crashed, something like that. And we see, okay, I have to accept that. The universe has my back, everything will be alright, everything happens for a reason, and I will handle that, there will come something good out of that. This is dangerous. This is called giving a new meaning to a situation, because what makes us feel different about situations is the meaning we give to that. But when we first of all do not start with feeling what I authentically feel right now, which is the loss, the sadness, the anger towards myself, the grief, the guilt, the emotional pain of projecting into the future how my family and my friends are going to suffer, all of those things. This is what needs to be accepted first. So here's the point that I'm making. Acceptance is related to the emotions, not the situation first, for the emotions. Feeling what you feel right now in this moment, and then also not trying to feel positive in this situation. Usually we assume acceptance means coming to a place of neutrality or even positivity towards something, where you say, okay, if I just accept that, I will feel better. This is the crucial mistake. Many people, when they exert self-acceptance and when they practice radical self-acceptance, right, they use acceptance and pervert that into its very opposite, which is avoidance of emotions or resistance towards emotions. I'll give you an example. When you say to yourself and you think, like, okay, everything is going to be alright, things will be okay, I will find the opportunity in this challenge, the universe has my back, everything will be okay, everything happens for a reason. You can do that in order to make yourself feel good, in order to avoid those painful emotions. This is kind of avoidance. And avoidance is the very opposite of acceptance, right? Acceptance means letting go of interfering with what you feel right now, right? This avoidance, trying to talk yourself out of these negative emotions, this is an avoidance pattern. It's the same like resistance, when you feel like you go against those negative emotions that you don't want to feel and that are so painful that you want to get rid of, right? everything's gonna be okay and I find the way and it's like, it's gonna be positive. All those things, this is called resistance. Now, there's a place for that, but when we first of all start with trying to do away with the feelings that we don't want to feel, we make a huge mistake, because then other situations will recur where those emotions are evoked again, right? I give you an example how to practice this healthy acceptance in a real life example. And then, hopefully you bear with me right now, then we can really see how that relates to accepting yourself. Like with everything that you want to accept, right? Maybe you're bisexual, maybe you're gay, maybe you feel like you have the wrong color, maybe you feel like me, you have the wrong accent. I was born and raised in Germany. Maybe you're too Indian or too Asian or too small or too tall, or you have acne, or you like to play computer games, or you can't figure this thing out. There's this one weird pattern that I just get myself into and I can't figure that out. Whatever that is that you want to accept towards yourself, right? That you want to accept about yourself, this is what we need to understand first. What is understanding how to practice that in an example that I will give you, and then also how does that relate to actually accepting those things that you really come here for. So please bear with me, because that's the necessary foundation and it will be worth it, I promise you. Okay, let's take the following example, right? You argue with your sister. You're angry with your sister. For example, because you two plan together the wedding for the third sibling, like for another brother or another sister. And there's this amazing band that he or she just wants there. And your sister and you, as I said, you planned that together. And she called you up one day, couldn't reach you, but left a voice message about how to go and plan this whole event, right? With the music. And because she didn't reach you, she left a voice message, but you're a person who doesn't look at or listen to the voice messages, so you ignore that, and now it's too late. Now the band is kind of overbooked already, it can't get there, and you feel, okay, I've got such an anger, such a resentment, why couldn't she just freaking call me? Like, now you feel, okay, there's something outside of your control that you now have to assume the responsibility for, right? You now have to bear the consequences of what you perceive somebody else did or didn't do. So she kind of stepped you over, so to speak, right? Now this is the situation. How would we react there? Usually we would think, okay, now I need to accept the situation. Okay, something good is, I'm going to tell myself, now something good is gonna come out of that, and everything happens for a reason. And maybe the band wouldn't have been good, or maybe they couldn't show up anyway. So everything is gonna be alright. This is called resistance to the emotions that I feel, right? Like, and please observe that for yourself. Don't take it as a generic example. This is like some real life situation that usually happens exactly in that way. When we practice radical self-acceptance, we believe what we need to accept first of all is the situation. And we need to talk ourselves out of feeling negative and talking ourselves into seeing the positive. But this comes from an inner place of resistance towards the emotions that we actually feel. So this is exactly the wrong approach. Now, it is the right method to kind of find an empowering meaning, but only after we have then felt those initial emotions. And what could those emotions be, right? It could be anger towards the sister. It could be resentment for not telling me. It could be feeling out of control because there was something that you didn't feel in control of. Could be also like guilt or like self-accusation because you feel, I could have just listened to my freaking voice messages, right? It could be also guilt because you feel angry at your sister and you believe you shouldn't feel angry at your sister because you're actually supposed to love her. It could be also shame and like guilt and anger towards yourself because you feel, I'm such a spiritual person, I actually should be accepting of myself, and now I'm angry at my sister, which doesn't really, right, you know what I mean? These are the emotions. And also the pain underneath of the disappointment that you project, you will experience when your brother or sister who's having the wedding can't get the band, and you feel like this whole thing is going to collapse, making things bigger. These are the feelings, right? These are the feelings that first of all need to be honored and they need to be accepted. And acceptance doesn't mean like seeing them and making them into something positive. Accepting them is like looking at them without interference. This is what acceptance means. Letting go of interfering with what is happening right now in your inner world. Letting go of the interference. Here I want to explain two more things. When I think about, or when I talk about feeling whatever is there, feeling your feelings, there's no huge difference between the feelings and the reaction, right? The feelings and the expression of that, the impulse for action, so to speak. This is a huge difference. Usually we don't quite have the distinction that, okay, I'm angry and I'm shouting at somebody. People believe when I'm shouting at somebody, I'm angry. Now, while that is true, there's a difference between, and the distinction between the emotion and then what I'm going to do about it. Feeling the emotion, I do not mean feeling it, letting it encompass you and just shouting at everybody and expressing your emotions. I don't mean that. Feeling means rather the very opposite, tuning in with a very visceral sense of the emotion. Okay, how does it feel in my body, right? And it doesn't need to be long, but it's just really acknowledging, okay, what is there? And if right now I don't have any time for that, then at least we make time at the end of the day to kind of really review those traumatic situations, and, or not traumatic, but like those emotionally loaded situations, so we get back to maybe other situations that used to be traumatic in our life. And this is what we want to be talking about here in the key insight later on, where we talk about, now I'm going to reveal that, finding the true cause of our unacceptance towards ourselves. So I said I want to explain two dynamics. Number one, or two insights. Number one, the difference between the emotion and the reaction. Number two is the difference between feeling the emotion and indulging in the emotion. This is also something crucially important to understand when it comes to self-acceptance, right? Indulging in the emotion means using the emotion in order to meet your needs. Feeling the emotion means you're just feeling what is there. In the example of the anger, feeling would mean, okay, I really tune in and I feel all of those emotions that I've just felt. Okay, the pain, or like first of all the guilt and the anger and the self-accusation, and then after all the emotional pain, right, that I project from disappointing my sibling who's having the wedding. Really acknowledging that those things are there without going into making them positive for now, right? This would be feeling. Indulging in the anger would be really getting mad at your sister and shouting at her and like and like accusing her, and really you feel bad about that. And here comes the indulging part. You would use that in order to meet your needs. This is what I said what indulgence means, right? It means you need a certain, what is it called? Something, a valve, is it? I don't know, like the lid of the pressure cooker gets blown off, right? You use this situation to get rid of steam, of emotional charge, and you use your sister to get rid of all this tension. Now, what could be true about that is that in the weeks before you were preparing for the wedding and you had a job and you have kids and a husband, let's say, and everything is just too much. So you have like a lot of tension in your body. Then you decide, okay, like I stop exercising 45 minutes each day to save some time, and then I feel very bad and exhausted and I stuff myself with like bad food just before I go to bed, and then you really feel like bad about yourself. So now for this tension in the body, for this feeling of like I feel bad about myself, now you use this situation in order to get rid of the stress. Or what could be another need could be that now you use the anger that you actually have, at least you feel about that this way, you have the right to feel that, so you now get all the attention that you actually want from your sister. Or it could be something even deeper, where you felt like, okay, even back then when we were both young, she always got more attention from my parents than I did. So right now I feel I have to bear the consequences because of her, in the context of something that I don't control, right? Like the love of the parents is something that you can't really control, and you feel like you're being stepped over by your sister, right? Okay, light is back. First of all, as I said, we need to understand what acceptance really means, and I hope you've seen that now, that this is the crucial mistake that people usually make. Saying and seeing, okay, it's the situation that I need to accept. This is not it. First of all, the emotions. Now, how does that relate to accepting ourselves? And here we come to the second point, right? The second point that I want to make. The acceptance of our emotions, we've been talking about this. Okay. The acceptance of our emotions, we talked about this already. Now, we have to see, okay, everything that we want to change about ourselves, everything that we want to accept ourselves, okay, let's take this off here. Everything that we want to accept about ourselves also comes down to like the feeling that we want to have about ourselves, right? Now, you might see, okay, I want to change this depression, or I want to change this anger pattern, or I want to change this or that. But like, why do you actually want to change? It's always because the way we feel about ourselves, right? This is what it all comes down to. Now, Sometimes it really might just be the resolution of an emotional pattern. Sometimes we really want to accept, for example, acne that I used to have, or some other people being overweight, right? We want to accept that actually in order to change that, right? But first of all, we need to really understand everything that we want from self-acceptance is feeling differently about ourselves. Now we can then also see that we can feel different about ourselves by actually practicing this acceptance of our emotions. Because when all emotions are welcomed and accepted, not indulged in, not reacted upon, but really felt, and this can take like 5 or 10 seconds when you practiced about that, right? This can take 5 or 10 seconds. You tune in with those emotions and you feel them through fully, and then you feel different about yourself because those emotions can be there. What usually leads to us doing the same mistakes over and over, right? For example, in the example that I gave you, this person, you're arguing with your sister and you don't see what is there to learn, right? In the anger pattern with your sister, then you might just get angry at your coworkers because you haven't made the necessary learning experience of, okay, if I was stressed with an additional task and I let go of exercising and I eat too much, then I will feel very bad about myself, I will feel the tension, and then I need this anger in some situations and I can't hold back in order to get rid of this tension. So then the learning that I need to make is, how can I prevent from this tension building up and getting out of balance in the first place? But we don't get there when we don't acknowledge those emotions, right? We don't learn about that so we can get to some acceptance. And this is the second part of the second insight I want to give you, is the appreciation of the behavior, right? When we have something that we want to practice acceptance towards, as I said, it might be an anger pattern or it might be a depression, right? Those things we need to see, okay, I can appreciate this behavior. And how so? Because the behavior has a positive intent. Now, what acceptance does not mean, as I said before, is finding something positive or making it something positive or manipulating yourself into feeling positive about something that you actually feel negative about. What acceptance rather is seeing that right now I feel very negative, but I see my positive intent behind that. This is way different. You can still feel all the feelings that are authentically there, but still feel the positive intent behind that. And what I mean by that is this. Let's say about the anger, right? In the example that I've given you. What the positive intent is to bring the system, your entire system, back into balance. And this is what the anger serves. So it gives a much clearer understanding when we see, okay, this is not something that's wrong with me. This is not something that just happens to me or happens through me, or even worse, this is not something that I do because I'm wrong or I am bad, or this is what I can't accept about myself. When you see this serves a purpose of giving our system the opportunity to get back into balance, then we can think very differently about that. Depression, for another thing. My mother used to be very depressed when she was young, or when she was still alive, I should say, when I was young. And what happened is, she really wanted to do something different with her life. And what depression sometimes, not in all the cases, but oftentimes does is, it gives you a necessary break where you are just in bed and you have the whole day for yourself to actually think about things. And then after the depression usually comes a manic phase where you have the energy to actually change something about your life. So you after all, step by step, can dig yourself out of that. You might fall after in the depression again, but then you come out with a manic phase where you actually have the energy and you're charged to actually make some changes. But when all the energy is kind of blown away by just changing your hairstyle and going shopping and really not really changing anything fundamental in your core, then it's futile. But it's a positive intent behind that, right? So we can appreciate our behaviors, appreciating that this depression right now happens to me, or I've created that, whatever way you want to look at that, in order for my system to meet its needs. Now, there are other things that you want to accept about yourself, for example, being bisexual, or being gay, or being an introvert, or being of dark skin, being of Asian descent, being of Indian descent, or as in my case, being of German descent, having like a German accent, which was at some time hard for me to accept as well, because I had some certain beliefs around that. Whatever that might be, this is not really behavior, this is kind of a way you are, right? And in order to accept that, for example, when you're bisexual or when you're gay, to really see, okay, what is the positive intent behind that? It actually gives me the love in the way I want it to be shown. Or even in other cases, you can really exert some incredible self-honesty and see, okay, if I'm gay, let's say a lesbian, Maybe it was because my father hurt me so much emotionally and like boyfriends after that, so I decided I will never be ever in a position again where I can be hurt by men in that way. So I rather go for a woman. So you can see, and now you might even be happy with that, or fairly happy, right? It's just the acceptance of the cultural perception of that. But you can be happy with that, but also having the self-honesty when this applies in your case to really see, okay, it used to be a protection mechanism, right? It had a positive intent. Also, not being accepted about like Asian descent or Indian descent or being an introvert, or for me having like a German accent, you know? Like, usually we fear the pain of being left out or not being accepted. So like the fear of that, the non-acceptance, is actually bringing up this topic to our awareness so we can actually look at that and work with that and then come to a different conclusion. This is an attempt from our system to bring all those things back into balance, right? To bring those things into consciousness so we are aware of that, so we can actually think different about those, right? So this is the second step in how to appreciate, how to practice radical self-acceptance for yourself, right? Once we've understood, okay, these are the emotions that I feel, and acceptance means first of all accepting the emotions. Then we need to also see, hello and welcome back. Now something unexpected happened, as it usually does in life, doesn't it? Like my lamp went out, plus the things were flying away, and I had to stop the video and get a new lamp now. Now, what happens here is I can practice self-acceptance right in this moment, really going in with the emotions of like, what's actually happening, okay? I'm angry at myself, I might stop the video, I need to start all over again, people might criticize me, people don't like that, all of that. Now my face is dark because the other lamp is not as powerful, all of those things, right? In unexpected things, and this is where real self-acceptance comes in, right? All the things that we've been practicing about. First of all, not believing like I should be seeing that positive. I was like quite angry for like a few minutes, and then afterwards I came up with a new empowering meaning of like, okay, what can I do? How can I talk about those things? So this is actually like a real life demonstration in kind of a real time for what self-acceptance actually means. And accepting all of those situations, because when you accept the situations, you invariably have to accept the emotions that this situation evokes in you. And this is what I just did, and this is what I've learned in this video doing that. So understanding that, appreciating of my behavior, that I think, okay, when I think this way, now my face is dark, people don't like that, it's kind of my perfectionism coming up, right? And why did I develop this perfectionism? Because I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to be sure that my parents and everybody else would pay attention to me, because attention was, in my upbringing, the equivalent of love, being seen, being rewarded, right, for doing well, or for like standing out. This is the thing. And here we come to the third point, like finding the deeper cause. Like the deeper cause of why you're not accepting of yourself, right? Here I want to explain a certain dynamic that happened in childhood. And this is a universal human experience that happens to each and every one of us. Everyone who is a human has had this experience. There was a time in our life when we were unconditionally loved. It was between 18 months and 24 months where this fall away, and this had two reasons. From our parents' perspective, on one hand, the natural drug called oxytocin wore off. So especially our mother, our father too, but here just 1/8 of that dose, our mother didn't feel quite as in love with us due to the natural hormone, right? This is the second reason, the first reason. Now it's getting windy again. The second reason is our parents then also decided, like, now his or her development has progressed in a certain way that now he or she is receptive to be taught the rules of society and the rules of the family. And now we certainly need to be a certain way in order to be loved, right? Before that, we could throw our food around, we could do what we wanted, and we were still loved. Because our parents were drugged on one hand, and on the other hand, they knew, okay, they won't understand anyway, like, I just need to accept everything that he or she does, right? But then at this certain crucial tipping point, we, from our perspective, experienced a lack of love, like the initial trauma of loss of love. And we believed, okay, before I had the experience of being unconditionally loved, now I need to be a certain way in order to please my parents. Now here comes the crucial point. There are certain things that we don't accept it of ourselves back then, where we felt, we felt our parents didn't approve of them as well. So we needed to be different than we are. We couldn't display those traits, right, in order to still please our parents. So here I would like to invite you to ask this question to yourself. What were your traits that you couldn't display, and what were the traits that you should display? Because here are the things. The scarce love of our parents that we felt, okay, we needed and we craved, this had the effect that we started to wanting to be different than we are. Meaning the things that we thought will not guarantee us our parents' love, we must not display those traits. And here I would like to invite you to understand what that is for you, right? Why are we coming to this place of non-acceptance? Guys, this is all for this session, and I would like to invite you to leave a comment right now, although not everything went perfect, but maybe you have some insights as well, how you can turn those situations around and make the best out of it. First of all, to understand the feelings, right, and feeling them, and then to see the positive in that. But this is also the second step, and we have to make sure we do not run away from the true and authentic emotions that we feel in each moment. So if you have gotten anything out of this video, please write it in the comments, because you can be a medicine to other people by you sharing from the heart and really open up. Other people will feel inspired to do so also, and that's it. Also, the healing meditation you find in the video description below. I highly recommend getting that. It's for free. I'm not selling anything. I just know it can help you. So, thank you very much, and see you another time.
Hey now, take a step outside and seize the day now. Set aside your worries, it's okay now.